And what are some best practices you are seeing that are being utilized to build trust and transparency with the partner in terms of their ROI and their reporting?
Yeah, that's a great question, Amy. This is really important because building out trust and transparency really starts with the recognition that they're not all the same and they don't all operate the same. So, if you think about it, there's something called a sophistication gap, as I would say, and that is existing with your partner. So, if you think the partner network spans from tech savvy multi location operators to those single location businesses that I'm sure all of you know still prefer to pick up the phone call and do that over an email is a little tough in measuring ROI the same way with that type of, like I said, sophistication gap. So, once there's an understanding and an agreement on this, you can then work to really build and design measurement around that reality. So, this will help with the trust and the transparency, but it's going to also help with that ROI maturity that we saw at the beginning and taking you from a one to a five. So, since partner networks run the gamut, you simply can start by having a tiered measurement approach that's going to respect all the capability differences for each partner without compromising that rigor that's out there. So there's three simple ways to categorize these tiers. There's the foundational, the standard, and the advanced. And we're going to talk a little bit about each one of these and a few avenues that you can address. So first is foundational. You'll want to have a baseline for all your partners to work off of. Eric, as well as Duenya, talked a little bit about KPIs. It's really something that you need to do from a foundational perspective and take and measure what are those 3 to 5 standard KPIs that would matter across all of your partners. This then gives that common language for performance, and it also allows depth where there's availability. So, in the case of ROI, consistent metrics always will beat the novelty piece when you're attempting to build trust. So, just remember it's also important with KPIs to make sure that they're obviously measurable, attributable, and then also tied to whatever outcomes you have. So, we had a financial services client who used just a really simple set of KPIs. What they did is their measurement was really concise and it had, like I said, just a simple set of KPIs with 4 metrics. So the first thing they did is they monitored their campaign participation rate. And what this did is it allowed for them to understand who was opting into and who was executing the programs and how consistently they were doing that as well. The second metric they used was the cost per lead. And what they were able to do here was measure the marketing efficiency across the tactics and the markets. The third one you'll see on this slide was looking at the lead to close conversion so they could understand how it ties the market efforts to the true revenue impact and not just the top of funnel activity. And then the last one is they developed a consistent way to track and monitor their partner satisfaction scores. So it's remember that if your partners don't trust the program and if they don't feel it adds value, then their participation is going to drop, and in turn, your ROI will follow. So our client using these 4 metrics was able, I should say, to compare 2,000 plus locations across their portfolio. So they in turn were able to identify the scalable best practices that they could then take and they could execute and implement to further drive ROI for the company. There were really simple visuals, clear definitions, reoccurring cadence, and all of this allowed them to see their trends and spot some of the issues that were coming up early on. And then, of course, they could engage in a consistent manner. Suddenly, the measurement stopped feeling like that academic aspect and it started to drive real decisions that impacted not just their business, but also supported them with just, again, 4 simple KPIs. So, KPIs are definitely important, but for someone who has a more sophisticated partner network, a simple model is not going to be enough. And this is where the standard measurement plan comes into play. And it's the next level of tiered reporting. And this is where you want to kind of quote unquote show the math, if you will, and make the data usable and not just available. So Typically, this is done with just simplified scorecards with a right-size view. And it provides, a quick insight, deeper dashboards, and this allows the team to come up with those practical narratives that they need in their QBR discussions, in turn allowing them to further drive action. So the standard structure to measure is also the most common approach that we see. But it is important to note that reporting visibility is definitely something you need to keep in mind. So you need to make sure that the end users have that visibility into reporting. And in some cases, the reporting stops at the distributor level, but the local retailer or dealer or contractor is being asked to invest. So give all your partners simple, plain language dashboards and show them what's in the market, and make sure people who are being asked to invest can actually see the numbers that they are looking for. So if I'm a dealer, I should not have to guess where the results live. I need to know what ran, what it costs, and what moved the needle. Ideally, it would be tied to the sales or the visit data, if you will, that they would already know at each month. So if you do this, you'll remove that mystery, if you will, and you'll remove that skepticism. Then the trust will really start to come to follow for local users. So let's assume that you have the availability to offer the right reporting and visibility to your partners, but you have a more complex program, maybe with supporting systems. Ideally, here you would want to use the advanced structure of measurement. And this measurement approach would include real-time dynamic dashboards with things like predictive and analytics. The full transparency and the diagnostic power will allow for continuous improvement, and partners can optimize things like their media mix, local offers, or even operational follow through. So ultimately, when partners know how to move up their measurement tiers with the right tools, the behaviors, and the data quality steps that are required, they will then see the measurement of ROI as a collaborative progress and not just something that's compliant. So as you look to develop your measurement model, remember that measurement models are not just measurement is not just a service, I should say, but it's not just a set. It is a service. It's not just a set of reports. So use it as a way to build trust, grow that ROI maturity to a 5, and if partners understand what's being measured, they'll continue to see how it connects. They'll know exactly what to do to improve, and then you will have developed one solid way to build that foundation for not just transparency, but also for trust.